we are going to talk about behavioral changes. As we say that health is a behavior, we can maintain a healthy life by making changes in our behavior. But how easy or difficult to make those behavioral changes? We'll discuss that today. So we have the approaches that we call the extended parallel process model. One is threat appraisal. When you know that there is a threat, and the second is efficacy appraisal. You know that it is working, it is effective, efficacy. And what are the outcomes? No response with low perceived threat. When there is no or low threat, you understand that there is no threat. Akash, please mute yourself. Akash, when there is no threat or low threat, we do not respond. The other outcome could be acceptance when perceived threat and efficacy are high. We accept the change when the perceived threat is high. Perceived threat is high. Example, corona infection would be high if we don't wear mask and don't maintain social distance. And also when a particular medicine, the effect is very high, change is possible. Then the third outcome could be rejection when perceived threat is high but efficacy is low. Threat perception is high, but if the efficacy of the change is low, we reject, we do not accept that behavior. So an example is given about seat belts. When people wear seat belts and when they do not wear seat belts. When we think that two appraisal processes are there, threat and efficacy, based on that we have three outcomes. When you say that, when you see that there is not much threat because you are going at a low speed and there is no external pressure, might be from some kind of law implementing agencies, so there is nothing, so no response, you don't respond. Acceptance when perceived threat and efficacy are high. You know that you are driving at a very fast speed, and if you wear seat belts, you will be saved if any kind of accidents are going to happen. I mean, at least you can be safe. So then you will wear seat belts. When you reject it, when perceived threat is high, when you say that, yes, there would be accidents, but even if I wear seat belts, it is not going to work for me. So I no need to wear it. So this is a healthy behavior. Wearing seat belts is a healthy behavior. But see how through two appraisal processes, we got three different outcomes. The other theories are persuasive message theories. How we persuade others. Based on that, we have some four different kinds of theories. Health belief model, theory of reasoned action, social cognitive theory, and elaboration likelihood model. We'll discuss one after another. This is a very popular model, health belief model, like the immunization campaign, false polio. We know about that. And there are five factors responsible for the successful implementation of this. The perceived barriers to
Sir,
perform. Sorry. Yes.
sir, the slide is not visible, sir.
Slide is not visible.
No,
I
sir.
am at slide number 4.
Visible, sir.
It's
Health
visible,
belief
sir.
model. Can you see health belief model?
No,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Maybe the
Yes,
network
sir.
issue from my side.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
It might be some network issue at some places.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, five factors that affect the health belief model are perceived barriers to performing the recommended response. What is a perceived barrier? I mean, I am using this term quite often. Perceived. What is perceived? Perceived is subjective interpretation of some phenomenon which might be subjective or objective. So there are some errors with perceptions too. Often our senses are not that effective to perceive objects, as well as when we talk about experiences. So perception is prone to many varieties of errors. So in this case, perceived barriers to performing the recommended response. So what could be the barriers? Suppose seat belt. What are the barriers to perform? I mean, you can't move freely if you put a seat belt on. You think that this is a barrier, so I don't wear seat belt. Perceived benefits of performing the recommended response. So some people might think that if I wear seat belts, at least I can be saved if any mishap occurs. Perceived susceptibility to a health threat. There could be some dangers, or I am prone to some kind of dangers. Suppose I am impulsive. I am not able to put brake at a right time. So it's better to wear seat belts. And then cues to action by media and family, etc. Like you see what are the or you observe what are the dangers of not wearing a seatbelt, or your family might have asked you wear a seatbelt or wear a helmet while driving. All this do come to play a role in the health belief model. If you believe, then it is working for you. The next theory is theory of reasoned action. One's own beliefs about performing a behavior. How much you believe in yourself. Like you have you are confident of doing something. You say that I don't need to wear a seatbelt because I am confident of driving safely. I don't need wearing a helmet because I would not meet with an accident. But this is too much of an expectation. This is too much of uh, a belief about health. We do not know. It might not be for you. It could be because of others. But sometimes we give reasons. You see, I never drive fast, so I do not need all this stuff to save myself. Many times these excuses to come from the young people. Theory of reason action uh, is also influenced by the subjective norm, beliefs about what other people think about the behavior, and the motivation to comply with those other people reference. If many people, you might have observed this, if on a particular day in a city, you find that in that city not many people wear helmets while driving bikes. But on some days, you found that except 2 or 3 people, many people are wearing this helmet. So you may get some kind of fear you might get caught because there is some kind of uh, checking going on. So the norm is everybody is wearing a helmet, so let me wear it. This is how we change our behavior. These are some of the theories that we are discussing currently. Then comes the social cognitive theory. Social cognitive theory is about self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, I am efficient, I am effective, I have my belief on myself. So people believe that they can exert control over their motivation and behavior and over their social environment. So you are confident that you can change your behavior if there are some health issues. Now, for example, you like to eat sweets, and suppose you got detected having diabetes, and doctor states that no sweets from today onwards. How many people have that belief? Yes, they can control their sugar intake. But often others doubt the self-efficacy of an individual. It's not possible. Many times we do not adhere uh, to the food restrictions that is being uh, posed by the doctors. What's the outcome? What do you think will happen if you take a certain action? Suppose you won't take sweets. So what will happen? We do not know how you are going to behave. You are a sweet lover, and because of diabetes, you are barred to take sweets. How are you going to uh, behave in that situation? Then comes the elaboration likelihood model. This promotes a central processing and not a peripheral processing. I mean, you are convinced about a behavior that you are going to adapt. It is internally motivating you. It's not something external. It's not something at the periphery. Rather, you are convinced about the change in your behavior. This is difficult, but the change is permanent. I mean, it's long lasting. Suppose you are advised to go for a walk for 45 minutes to 1 hour every day to keep yourself healthy. Now, on the very first day, it is not possible to go at a stretch for 45 minutes to 1 hour walk. There are two ways of doing this. If you are convinced that going for a walk is good for my health, you can do it. But if you are not convinced, you need to practice every day, maybe for a month or 2 months, 3 months, and then your body is accustomed. But here in elaboration likelihood model, it says about you imagine the consequences along with not working on this issue or not working on this aspect of your health. If you do not go for a walk, what would be the consequences? So you'll find that if I go for a walk, the consequences that I'm going to face is less, I mean the bad consequences. And if I go for a walk, the good consequences are higher. And you are convinced that walking is good for me. Every day I'll go for a walk from 45 minutes to 1 hour. So you have elaborate understanding about the behavior that you're going to adapt. So what do the theories do? They explain how variables work together to influence health behaviors. Everything is a variable. Whatever varies is a variable. So you're going to work, stopping stopping taking sugar, and adapting some other health behavior, they are variables. So taken together, they influence our health behaviors. So variables could be the threats, the efficacy, and barriers. Most of our lives, we deal with all these variables. They vary with different proportion, with different quantity, and affect our lives. So if we summarize the health behavior change theories, we discussed about extended parallel process model, health belief model, theory of reasoned action, social cognitive theory, elaboration likelihood model. So if we talk about the theoretical origin of variables, what is the stimuli in case of extended parallel process model? It is a fear appeals like from mass media, interpersonal group messages. You know that about COVID-19, how uh, messages do affect you, the way it is represented or presented to you. Whereas the same stimuli in health belief model acts as a cues to action. It could be internal or external. In theory of reasoned action, that stimuli is either an observation or interaction with peers. In social cognitive theory, it's personal experiences, vicarious experience, verbal persuasion, or physiological arousal. They are the stimuli, social cognitive, because you are aware of that and you see what is happening in and around you. You experience them. And in elaboration likelihood model, the mass media messages and interpersonal interactions, you try to make meaning out of that. You try to get into that and understand in great detail. So those are the stimuli for different theories. And what are the motivational variables for extended parallel process model? The threat, susceptibility, as well as severity, and fear. If there is a threat and there is a fear, well, certainly I'm going to change my behavior. And this is mostly adapted in changing our behaviors. The same is true in case of health belief model, threat. For theory of present action, it is not there. it is absent. Social cognitive theory, it is absent. And in elaboration likelihood model, involvement, you try to understand the threat from its core, where from it comes, how much it is true, how much it is not true. Then you get convinced. Then coming to internal and environmental resources, extended parallel process model talks about self-efficacy, response efficacy. Believe in yourself and believe in your responses. Health belief model talks about the benefits and barriers. If I do this, what are the benefits? If I don't do this, what? Or if I am going to do this, what are the barriers? Theory of present action talks about attitudes, subjective norm. My attitudes and what is the subjective norm? What is the norm available? How people behave. Then social cognitive theory, what are the internal and environmental resources? Efficacy expectations, self, internal, and outcome expectations, environmental. What is going to happen? In elaboration likelihood model, ability to process a message. You try to understand. You have the ability to process the message. I mean, mostly the elaboration likelihood model is an active form of behavioral change. Based on the outcome variables, the origin of the variables, the extended parallel process model talks about danger control, responses like attitudes, based on attitudes, intentions, and behavior, fear control, responses like defensive, avoidance, reactance, denial. Either you control the danger through the responses like your behaviors, attitudes, and intentions, or you control the fear through your responses. You may avoid, you may become defensive, or you deny the presence of that. Similarly, in health belief model, what are the intentions and what are the behaviors? We try to understand that. Same with theory of present action, and in social cognitive theory, it is about the behavior. It's mostly how others are doing. So based on that, you change your behavior. And in elaboration likelihood model, if the outcome variable is and processing mode, we try to understand whether it is core, or I have understood this, or I just learned it from others. But mostly it's a central one. I am convinced about the dangers, so I change my behavior. These are theories a little bit difficult for understanding. What are the approaches? Describe different steps to increase the persuasiveness of a health risk message. And there are stages of change model and social marketing approaches. So what are the stages of change model? This is given by Prosaka and D. Clement in 1992. This is characterized by incremental steps, relapse, and sustainability. You might have observed, like, while there is a change in behavior, you suppose you want to quit smoking, for example. You try to reduce the number of cigarettes you take per day, but on the other day, you again took more and say that yesterday's quota I'm filling today. But on the third day, you again try to reduce. And likewise, you go on relapse incremental steps, relapse incremental step, and then uh, on some day you could achieve your goal. You stayed away from smoking. Many people have adapted. These are some of the subjective ways of attaining. There is no definitive way of making a behavior change which will act for everyone. So that's why it is not a linear progression. Rather it is a spiral with relapses. So anyone who wants to change a behavior which is maladaptive, this takes time to change. Now see the diagram here. It's a spiral model of the stage of change. So the stages are pre-contemplation, then contemplation or preparation action, pre-contemplation again continuing, and contemplation or preparation action continuing. We try to maintain that stage. Gradually we come to the stage of termination. So 5 stages are there: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. What happens in pre-contemplation? You deny. You say that no, I do not have this habit, this bad habit. So if you don't accept that it is not a bad habit, you don't perceive any problem. So no perceived problem and no association of problem with behavior. So smoking is normal. What's wrong with that? Because you at the first instance you deny. Suppose you are behaving badly with others, but you do not know, or even if you know, you deny that I don't behave badly with others. So if you think that, or if you deny that there is I'm not a bad behaving person, so you don't feel that there is a problem. And if there is no problem, so my behavior has no issue. This is called pre-contemplation. Then in contemplation stage, you try to assess realistically, I mean, whether there is really a problem. Is it visible to me as well as others, or do I realize that there is a problem? Realistic assessment starts. But you are unable to confront the problem or behavior because at the beginning you have denied this problem. So accepting or confronting the problem or behavior becomes difficult. So that's why the pre-contemplation and contemplation goes on for some time. Then after some period, you are prepared to try to actively gather information to prepare for a behavior change. And this will not happen if there is an external pressure all the time. You know that in the cigarette packets, there is a picture of showing cancer. But how many people do think that it's going to happen to me? So these are external dangers, and it is not working the way it should. In all the tobacco related products, these danger signals are given. But how many people do follow that? Unless and until you yourself has participated actively in understanding the process, the problems, it's not going to change. So one has to come to this stage of preparation after going through the pre-contemplation and contemplation stages. And then you go for an action. Now there would be several stages of this action. Could be, you can say, I'll stop it right now and here. possible. Some people do that. Forever they have left a bad behavior and they have adopted good behavior. Some people say that no, it's not possible for me to change the behavior right now. Well, I'll take some time. Could be 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, but I'm going to change my behavior. New Year is coming. Many people are going to have some kind of uh, promises to themselves. Some people do keep it, and many of us don't. We can't. We try to be a better person, but not many people do succeed. And in this stage, we start to change our behavior. But that's not all. You need to maintain the behavior. Unless and until it is maintained or it is sustained, then we can't say that a behavior change happens. Now I'm giving you an example of taking medicines and its impact on health. Suppose I am suffering from some problem and the doctor has prescribed medicines for me. I started taking medicines and felt well. But how long? Once I am, can I say that I'm fully cured and I don't need any medicines? The doctor says that there are some diseases which would be with you for your entire life. So keep taking medicines throughout your life. Diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, all these ailments. Thyroid, they are going to stay with you forever. So keep continuing the medicines. That's difficult many times, but there are no other ways. And if you do not follow, there will be complications, and you don't know. Even the doctors don't know what to do. Similarly, once you change your behavior, if it is not maintained or if it is not continued for a longer period of time, you are going to relapse. So you should be vigilant enough to avoid relapse. What happens? The social factors or some other triggers, other stimuli are always available to take you back to the original stage, or maybe that state from where you have come to a new stage. So that's why, remember, behavior related illnesses are always potentially chronic. It's not easy to change behavior. Not easy, very difficult. So that's why they are under the chronic category of diseases. So coming to the levels of prevention, there are 3 levels: primary, secondary, and tertiary. In the primary level of prevention, it's aimed at those who have not started a risk behavior. So we say that prevention is better than cure. So let's prevent it at the very beginning. And when does it start? For example, smoking. When does it start? Mostly it starts at the adolescent age. We try to explore new things with a newfound independence, and with friends, we try to explore the extent to which we can go. Even we know some of the youngsters try some risky behaviors. One of the risky behaviors is taking selfie near the waterfalls and losing lives. We have so many examples for that. In the sea or sea beach, losing lives, risky behaviors. So when does it happen? It happens mostly during the adolescent phase. So interventions must start at school, and we must educate the students about the risk behavior and what are the consequences. Well, media projects many things, but they are not the real ones. And adolescents get influenced by media and think that this is what is to be modeled, this is what is to be followed to claim an identity for oneself. Then the second level of prevention, suppose we couldn't do it at the primary level, what can I do at the secondary level? This is aimed at those who do not exhibit chronic behavior. Now, sometimes some people do exhibit behavior problems, but it's not chronic. It's not a permanent kind of or a long-term kind of behavior. Sometimes they become irritable, they become they behave badly. So at that point, we need to intervene. What went wrong with them? And if we failed to do that and they have entered into the tertiary phase, so how at the tertiary stage we can prevent? We have to treat them and try to maintain the same kind of uh, behavior, good behaviors. So these are the three levels of prevention. And what are the elements of prevention? Because we are talking about health promotion and illness prevention in health psychology. So prevention is important by giving them proper education and treatment, aligning with a public policy and law enforcement. Now for these four, I'll give you an example of wearing helmet. Why wearing helmet while riding bikes is important? We must educate. If you fall down and your head is hitting the ground, you might die, or there could be other complications which would be lifelong. One can become disabled. So we must educate. Then we treat the behavioral problems. Why somebody is not adhering to the behavior change? Where is the problem? Whether the problem is that nobody is doing that, so why should I do? We would counsel. Then in public policy, how the government makes policy about this. Currently, the policy on two-wheeler riders is that the pillion rider must wear helmet. Earlier, it was not there, at least for our state in Odisha, it's not there. But now it is a policy thing that both the driver as well as the pillion rider have to wear helmets. And suppose we do not follow, so law enforcement is another way of preventing this kind of behaviors. What does education do? Education limit the demand by providing information. Through education, we get information to change attitudes and beliefs. We also get skills and change our behavior. How to change behavior? We can educate people. People are wearing helmet, but they do not know how to wear the helmet. They just put it on their head. And which kind of helmets you must wear while driving your bikes. Treatment talks about removal of physical and environmental conditions that contribute to behavior. We have Alcoholic Anonymous group and Narcotic Anonymous group. This is, if you are aware of these groups, those who are who were past addicts, but now they have given up those addictions. There is a group to help other addicts to come out of that addiction. So for alcoholics, it is Alcoholic Anonymous, and for narcotics, it's Narcotics Anonymous. So you can go to those group meetings and listen to their experiences, how they have come out of those risky behaviors and now maintaining a good life. And then you need to put people through psychological and physical hooks. I mean, there must be something motivating for them. Many times people say that, yeah, I'll change my bad behavior, but what's the good behavior available for me? I do not know. So we must have something in place so that they would get engaged in good activities. And in public policy and law enforcement, what could be the actions for those who do not follow the guidelines? That is the role of the public policy and law enforcement agencies. And at all levels and the elements of prevention, what is the purpose? We are trying to save money, because if we uh, have more people with behavioral problems, alcoholism is a behavioral problem, drugs is a behavioral problem, riding unsafely on road is a behavioral problem, and they all attract money. By changing our behavior, we can save money. And where can we apply stages of change model? We can apply it at all stages of prevention, at primary, secondary, and tertiary, and with two elements of prevention, at education and treatment. So I'll stop here for any questions. Questions, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, what are peers we are talking about?
Sorry.
Peers, P-E-E-R-S.
I'm not getting your question.
Sir, a word was there, P-E-E-R-S.
Be louder, be louder.
P-E-E-R-S, sir.
P
E-E-R-S.
P double C R S.
Double E, E for elephant, sir.
Can you type it?
Mm,
Here there is a conversation.
yes.
Yeah, type it here. Are you typing? Peers. Okay. 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 Peers are your friends. Your you can say your classmates, your age mates, or your colleagues in office. Not all the time they are of same age, but there is some common connection. So they are called peers.
So there is also peer pressure. That
Peer pressure, yes, yes, peer pressure. So who are the peers? Like your friends are your peers. So if there is a pressure from peers that yes, buddy, let's go for a cigarette. Uh, and if you don't take it, no, I don't like, or it's not good. So they try to convince you through many different ways. So you get pressurized to adapt to some of the unhealthy behaviors. Okay.
okay, sir. I understand.
Yeah. Any other questions? So wait for me. I'll, if no questions are there,